Great. Thank you, Joyce. Okay, well, entrepreneurship. Okay, you guys, this is the fun way to get money. I mean, I think this is personally the fun way to get money. I think you have so much control over it, and once you get going in this, it's kind of like writing your first grant. It's pretty easy. But basically what entrepreneurship is just establishing a business with a social mission is what it is. I think the reason for it is to generate revenue in most cases, although there might be other reasons. Most of your nonprofits, your well-established nonprofits, are moving into this area now, and have been since 1995, although it was much more bigger in more recent years because of what's happening with government funding. Okay, it really is just another way to get revenue, and or to get some other type of service, not just necessarily revenue, and to expand your programs. And it's really fun. It's really fun. All right, so now I have to stay with my slides. There's a couple things you really need to take a look at before you go into doing this. Okay, and one is that it takes as much planning and management skills as running any government-supported project, all right? So you really need to look to see if your organization or your tribe is ready to do this. That's the first thing. That's the most important thing. Are we ready to do this? And basically, in most cases, and I work with a lot of nonprofits like this, how many of you remember writing your first grant? Anybody? I do. It was a long time ago. Okay, it's the same type of experience, all right? The second thing is, how are you going to measure success? Success isn't necessarily in generating revenue. There can be many other examples of success. For instance, in the gaming tribe, some of the gaming tribes, they don't generate a lot of revenue off their casinos, but they create jobs. Okay, and that's success, Although they have a government-supported program, the WEA Workforce Investment Act program, that's to create jobs. Casinos have probably created as many jobs per year as that at a minimum, okay? So it's really important, and I'll refer to this a lot. What do you call success? Like with the Elders programs. One Elders program did this, and it more because it brought the elders out of their home and brought them into group activities. And success for them wasn't necessarily generating the money, but it was reducing the isolation of their population they were serving. Okay, and the other thing that's most important is making sure that whatever it is that you do falls into the cultural environment, the mission of your organization or the tribe. So you really can't do something, that's going to be directly adverse to what your core mission is. So those are a couple things before you get started to think about. And of course, with any type of thing, there's the planning, and how many of you have done a needs assessment? Anybody done a needs assessment in there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, basically, a needs assessment in business terms is just a marketing plan. It's just taking a look at who's our market. Your market is who are people that need whatever it is you have to offer, okay? And then the second thing is we've all looked when we're developing work plans and looked at different options and what we can do and how we can do it, and what it's going to cost to do it. And, fortunately, with government grants, they usually tell us how much money we have. And you guys are masters at adapting the services to the dollar amounts. Well, in establishing a business, it's really like, taking a look at what is the product or the service and what's it going to cost to do it, which will translate into what do we need to charge and will they pay it. So the feasibility study is very much, like doing that same type of planning. And then the third is a work plan and a budget. We've all done those. We all know what they are. There's a little bit more financial work when you're planning for a business than there is for a government-supported project. But what that's called is your business plan, and that's our ultimate outcome, is to come up with a business plan or a proposal. We can parallel what a business plan to to a government-supported program proposal, and they look very similar. They look very similar. All right? So let's look at the marketing plan first, and this is our needs assessment, remember? Oops, I keep clicking. Okay, the main reason we're doing it is to find out what it is that we're going to offer. And that's just tweaking a bit. I mean, first you're going to look at the mission, you're going to look at what some potential opportunities are, and then you're going to see what is it that we're going to offer. Okay? The second is, let's go where the most need is, or where we can sell the most of our product or service. So we're going to want to target there. Okay? The third is we're going to have to look at information. That's how many of you done research about, you know, the needs of the elders or the needs of seniors or what type of volunteer activities they want to be involved with, things like that. It's no different than that same type of research. Okay, looking at what you're going to charge, you know, and again, I'm paralleling it to project proposals because that's what most of us are familiar with. We look at what are the services going to cost. Okay, and then what do we do to break even? So we're not losing money, or, you know, we want to not lose money, although in some cases that's not a bad thing depending upon how you're terming success. You know, if the success is just to have activities, socialization activities, and that's what you use your business to support, is sustainability of the project. And, you know, if it only costs us a couple $1,000s, that's fine, because if we try to do different types of social activities, they may cost us $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 if we weren't making some money off of it. Okay, how are you going to market what it is that you're selling? You know, again, some people say, oh, advertising in the newspaper. Well, that's not always the best way, you know, or things like that. And then site selection, I don't know if that would impact you or not. The example I used earlier today was, you know, there was this one Indian center, and they had a lot of their clients were artists, and so they had a lot of items that they could sell for them. So they set up a little gift shop. You know, the problem being that the Indian Center was located way away from the city, so the only customers they had were the employees. They didn't need a gift shop for that. All right. And then developing your marketing plan, which is your outreach plan, okay? And one thing I forgot to say before I jumped right into this, did all of you receive the CD that Joyce mailed you? Bill?
Yes.
Russ? Okay, what that is, let me tell you what that, did you look at it at all?
I haven't had a chance to yet.
Okay, what that is it actually takes you through this, I mean, in much, much more detail. We're just kind of blushing over it today to tell you what's in it, but it also has files in it that you could start planning with, and exercises that will get you to the business plan, and you can save the files and go back and work on them. Or if you have someone, a volunteer or someone, you can give it to them to help you with this. I know at our first call today when the person said, can we use a VISTA volunteer to do this? And yes, if it's in their work plan. So this is just building on that CD that was sent to you, sent to everyone. Okay, now back to this, all right? Let's go back to market factors, okay? Going to want to look who needs what, how much will they pay, and is somebody else providing it? And what are your sales going to be? That's basically all it is. It's like, who needs what services, you know, what do we need to do to get the services to them, and are there other people providing those services from a nonprofit standpoint? We're just looking at it from a product, you know, standpoint or a sales standpoint, okay? And again, your market is people that need something, that have money to spend, and a willingness to spend it. One program I know that did a business is that they, you know, provided the services to the seniors, and basically, you know, they provided senior companion services, they provided telephone reassurance, that. But for the people that could afford to pay for it, they charged a nominal fee. They still had the need, but they had the money to pay for it, all right? And they or their families were very willing to spend that money, you know, to have someone call their mom or dad every day, or the individual to have someone call them every day, and things like that. So they've kind of combined the both as a nonprofit of where they are, they found out everyone, the whole population that had the need. The ones that couldn't afford to pay for it, the people that could afford to pay for it were paying for their service as well. And it was still very, very reasonable, much more reasonable than other private businesses in the area. Okay, again, when you're looking at whatever it is that your idea is saying, you will want to look at the population. You want to look who's going to buy it, their age, where they're at in their life, education and income all play a role in who's going to buy it. And also if they have special needs, certain religious affiliations, things like that. These are some standard things that you look at when you're doing market research. Okay? There's two different types of market research. One is primary research. This is extremely expensive to do. This is when you go out and actually take the surveys. Okay, and we all know that. It's like going out and physically doing a needs assessment with a questionnaire. The second is secondary research, where we go online and we find it. I personally think secondary research, just because of the cost. Primary clearly gives us the best picture, but it's extremely, extremely expensive to do. All right? It's really expensive to do. Secondary research, still gives us good information, and all you need is, is good internet skills. All right? Which I don't have, so I usually have to ask Victoria or somebody to do it for me. Okay, the next thing is pricing. First of all, you need to know what it's going to cost you to provide that good or service. The second thing is, where are you at compared to everybody else? If there are competitors, like there's this one now. How many of you have ever heard of the weatherization program that's operated by the CAP agencies?
Sure.
Okay. I'm working a lot with all of those CAP agencies around the country because they really have something to sell. They have state-of-the-art technology that private business has not caught up with. And so, they really don't even have competition at this point in time. Okay? And they have a skill. Their money's being reduced. They have trained people. So that's what they're looking at doing, is people that don't meet the eligibility criteria providing the services for a fee. And, they're in a great spot because they have no competition at this point. I think that's going to change pretty quickly. But anyway, do you have competition? I think if you look at whatever it is you might want to do, you'll see that there's the competition's prices will be probably double what you can do it for in most cases. Okay? And then what people's reactions are. Maybe they don't get it because it is too expensive, or, maybe they, I don't know. You have to take a look at what their feelings are. Again, it's people's reaction to the cost. The other thing, and this is really, really important, is you need to look and make sure that your cost isn't so low that people think it might not be a good service. A lot of times people are buying names and things like that. And this is, with the nonprofits that I've worked with, this is their typical problem, is that they don't price it high enough. They don't do a high enough price in the profit margin in it. And so, if anything, I see them going the wrong way, going too low as opposed to too high, in my experience, without exception, okay, without exception. So that's the market. Look at who needs it, what they need, if it's what you want to provide. The next thing is the feasibility. Can we do it? And this is really risk management. What you'll have in a feasibility study, is it'll help you to look at pulling together all the information, the market information and the cost. The other thing that it really helps you do is do projections. How many of you do better if you have deadlines to meet as opposed to get this to me sometime?
Yeah, I do better with deadlines.
Okay, market projections gives you deadlines. That's what it does, is it gives you deadlines. We need to sell 100 cookbooks this month, or we need to sell, we need to provide 100 units of senior companion services, or we need to get 100 members that want telephone reassurance, that type of thing. So it helps you take a look at what you need to accomplish in order to make this thing at least break even, if that's your skill. The other thing is that it looks at what type of skills you're going to need in order to do whatever it is you want to do. Okay? The third thing, and these sound like high terms, but they're really not. What are your capitalization requirements? Like with one Indian center, what they do is they sell Navajo tacos. Okay, so what were their capitalization requirements? Well, they needed the raw food products to make the Navajo tacos, and I think that pretty much covered it. You know, the labor was donated, but, you know, it's taking a look at that. And I've seen everything in capitalization requirements from $500 all the way up to $2 million. I mean, you go the whole gamut on that. But at least you know, well, we need to raise about this much money in order to start this business. The other thing in the feasibility will be your financial statements. You know, so you need someone to help you that's got some financial background, okay, to kind of predict what's going to happen if all the stars line up in the sky and we do as our plan, okay? And then to know the risk. You know, I think it's really important to know what your risk is. Have any of you ever participated in a fundraiser where you didn't make any money? Nobody? Come on, you guys. I've been around a long time. You know, what is the risk that we're going to have? What could we lose? Could we just lose our 500, or could we lose, you know, could we lose 1,000, things like that? And then what kind of people do we need to help us? How many of you have had a lot of volunteers, but you didn't have the right volunteer that had the skills you needed? Okay, so who do we really need to help? And I say volunteers, it could be paid employees, all right?
Yeah.
When we talk about feasibility study, we're also looking like, will we cover our operating costs? Can we repay debt? I am pretty adamant about this. I don't think any tribe, or not, well, not tribe, but any nonprofit should go into debt to start a business, all right, unless it's a debt to itself. Just because I just don't believe in it. I think it's risky enough when you're doing something new. It's like writing a grant for the first time. You don't want to bet that that grant's going to get funded. Or at least I wouldn't have bet on my first proposal, that's for sure. You know, so I'm pretty adamant about that. But a feasibility study does look at if you have to borrow money, you know, will you have enough to repay it? You know, will you be making enough money to grow or to support the program? So that's what the feasibility study is looking at. Okay, it's also looking at, again, financial, do you have the skills to do it, and the technical capability to do it. And it'll walk you through all that CD that we sent you. All right. The feasibility study also looks at the products and services. What needs are you meeting? Okay, is it a physiological need? You know, if you're selling food, yeah, it's food. Is it a safety need, you know, the telephone reassurance, that type of thing? Is it a social need? Okay, is it self-esteem? You know, does it bring you happiness? All of these are the 5 standard ones that every marketing campaign is planned around. They figure out what they're trying to sell, and then they pull it into the different types of the 5 needs that people might have. And what's really fun, you guys, is when you're watching TV, watch the commercials and see which one of these 5 they're trying to tie into. And every commercial will tie into one of these or multiple ones. Okay, this is pretty standard stuff. So think about your own, because then when you're selling the product, you can describe it in a way that meets that need. Okay. It's going to look at cost, competitors' prices, and your potential customers' reactions to the prices. Okay? It's going to analyze the 5 P's of the marketing strategy, which is product, price, population, and I forget the other 2. Okay? But the CD will tell you what those other 2 are. It's something to look forward to. Okay, you'll also look at your startup requirements. That's why I said your capitalization. Okay? And your ongoing operations. Okay. And I already spoke to capitalization requirements. All right. The next thing it will do will be the balance sheets. You'll do some projected balance sheets. It's almost like doing a budget. Okay. And there'll be the balance sheet, the financial statement, and the cash flow statement. A lot of times we have money, but we're cash poor. So that's pretty much what the feasibility study will take you through. And now you're ready to do, the break-even analysis. I apologize. Are we going to make money or are we going to lose money? How much do we have to sell? Do we have to sell 500 cookbooks to break even? Or do we have to sell 300 to break even? You know, and that. And all this will take you into the final product, which is your business plan. I'm just going to talk about the contents of the business plan, okay? First of all, your business plan is like your proposal, all right? It talks about, it's going to do is talk about what it is your business wants to do, what the key market factors, which we already got from our marketing plan, does, the resources available to your business, the capitalization, remember we did that in feasibility, the economic feasibility, what the risk is, personnel, what their strengths are, okay, and who the key personnel are, and how it's going to be organized. So really, you know, who will sell what to whom, where, at what cost, and for what price, okay? And then this is your 60. So let me go this. Now look at how similar this is to a project proposal. You have your cover sheet. You have your, you know, your statement of purpose of the plan, your table of contents, your executive summary. That is very, very similar to a project abstract. Description of the business, okay, very, very, your planned approach, that kind of thing. Your market analysis, that's your needs assessment, your needs statement, your organization management, those are your personnel capabilities, your financial analysis, and your, which is your budget and everything that goes with it. There is more financial work on a business plan than in a typical project proposal. And your supporting documents, okay, which could be whatever it is that, you know, that helps you, that you need. It's kind of like your attachments, all right? And so really that's all it is. But once you've gotten to that point, you really can take a look at this. And this is like anything that you do if you start a little business. What it really does is it really starts, and then over the years it will grow and grow and grow as you get better at it. But what I think is really, really good about it is that it's unrestricted money. You can control this. And you do, everybody on this call has the skills to do something like this, as opposed to waiting to see what the appropriations are each year. And the sooner you start, the sooner you'll get ahead. And so I think it's, having done both businesses and nonprofit grants and that, I just think having a blend is good, and I think it really is a good way, because once you get that money, there's, except to your board of directors or tribal council, there's no reporting and things like that. Nobody can take it back. And, if you really think about it and make it something that it's not just a staff activity, but something that your volunteers can participate in, or maybe other community members can participate in, and make it kind of almost an activity that's supported by the community, I think you get tremendous rewards from it. And you can get help, like I said, to help you with it. There's lots of resources to help you with it. But right now what I'd like to do, Victoria Collins, her organization is doing a very, very large business. And Victoria, if you could just talk a couple minutes about what you're doing to give you guys a concrete example of what we're talking about here, please.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we actually got a grant from the Administration for Native Americans to do something called the Knowledge Preservation Project. The project started in order for us to actually do a social entrepreneurship project and to put a book together for sale with a publisher, and we actually ended up coming up with an agreement with Weldon & Owen Publishing out of San Francisco, and the grant itself paid for the funding both for the project development and then the book development as well. And while we were going about it, of course, we didn't just want to produce something for sale and only work on a book project. So while we were at it, what we did is we developed projects in conjunction with our VISTA project out in the field to start intergenerational projects, cultural information collection, or whatever was really needed locally, traditional gardening, all sorts of things. And together with that information and other things, it became a total project that, not only was meeting, it's like the tenets of our nonprofit, but was also moving towards this project that we fully expect to make money on. The project itself then was fully paid by the ANA grant, so anything that we make on the book, of course, is profit. The book will be out this fall. It's actually completed. It's just at the printers now. It's a beautiful, like 326-page coffee table style cookbook or book, and it'll retail for about $50. So, we fully expect to do quite well. It's a beautiful volume, and to have the whole point was getting a lot of, a fair amount of dollars, unobligated funds, so that we could get those out to tribal senior services programs to use as they see, best.
Yeah, thank you. And what the thing that's really brilliant about how they planned this project is, I'm sure all of you know the federal regs that once the project ends, you do not need to report any program income that's generated off that project. You have no further responsibilities to the federal government. So by doing what Victoria did was by getting a 3-year project from A&A, those projects cut off. They're not like, any of the senior corps programs that kind of go on forever, but they cut off. So all the money, and of course their release of the book is timed right when the grant ends, so all the money that's generated by that, will become unrestricted income. And the other thing, too, is Weldon Owens that she was talking about, they're going to do all the international marketing for her, so you guys will be getting royalties off that, right, Victoria?
That's correct.
Yeah, so, they're going to be doing the selling of it. But, that's just one example of something that will provide revenue for a lot of years to come, I think, to their organization. And the other thing I want to emphasize is that right now there's a lot of these projects out there, and I committed to finding potential funding sources for you guys, and I will do that by the next call. There's a lot of projects out there that fund these one-time economic development projects. So, you're 5 years ahead of the game if you can use somebody else's money to develop these businesses, and things like that. The other thing that I wanted to offer up, too, is that I do have an agency assessment for nonprofits, if any of you would like that, where you can actually see your readiness to do something like that within your agency. And it's just a checkbox that just runs you through what kind of things you need to have. But with that, that's pretty much my presentation. Again, the CD that you were sent gives you way more information than you will ever need to know. You can probably teach a college class when that one's done. And so hopefully it's something that you will look at, because I think it's just a real viable way for sustainability in this uncertain future of ours right now. Okay? Brian or Joyce?
Yes.
I'm done.
Okay. Brian? Okay. We have the agenda back. Any questions for Susan?
I've got one. This is Bill Tracy. In the feasibility study, you mentioned about risk assessment. And is there a way of determining level of risk? Is that on the CD you sent?
Yeah, and there is. There
is.
A lot of it's going to depend upon the capitalization requirements, the initial operating expenses, and your market analysis. Yeah, and it'll take you really where you're going is to look at your break-even point and things like that. But yeah,
All right.
Really helps you with that a lot.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you, Susan.
Thank you guys very much. And if you think of anything later, I'm always available because I love this stuff, okay? Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.